John Gotti. The name alone sent shivers down spines. A ruthless mob boss. He was the head of the Gambino crime family. Gotti's reign was legendary. He was feared and admired. His charisma was undeniable. He loved the spotlight. The media dubbed him the Dapper Don. He was always impeccably dressed. He had an air of invincibility. Gotti's life was a paradox. He was a family man. He was fiercely loyal to his crew. But his ruthlessness knew no bounds. His enemies feared his wrath. He was a man of contradictions. He was capable of great charm and chilling violence. His life was a testament to the allure and danger of organized crime. John Gotti Jr. grew up in a world of privilege. He had a life of luxury, but it came at a cost. The shadow of his father loomed large. He was both protector and threat. Young John was exposed to the family business early on. He saw the respect his father commanded. He also witnessed the violence. Gotti Jr. idolized his father. He craved his approval. He yearned to prove himself. He saw the Mafia life as a path to acceptance. It was a way to make his father proud. He joined the family business in his early 20s. He rose through the ranks quickly. His father's reputation preceded him. He was given a level of respect, but he also faced scrutiny. He had to prove he was more than just his father's son. He had to earn his stripes. Gotti Jr. dove headfirst into the life. He embraced the danger. He sought to prove his worth. He was eager to please his father. He was quick to learn. He was ruthless when he needed to be. He climbed the ranks of the Gambino family. He became a captain. He was seen as his father's heir apparent. His future seemed preordained. He would lead the Gambino family. He would continue the legacy. Life in the Mafia was a dangerous game. Alliances shifted. Betrayals were common. Gotti Jr. learned this quickly. He witnessed the brutality firsthand. He saw loyalty tested and broken. He made enemies. He also made allies. He forged bonds with fellow mobsters. He learned to trust cautiously. He relied on his instincts. He had to make difficult decisions. He had to choose between loyalty and self-preservation. The line between right and wrong blurred. The Mafia had its own code of conduct. Loyalty was paramount. Disobedience was met with swift retribution. Gotti Jr. navigated this world with caution. He tried to remain true to his principles, but the pressure was immense. He struggled to reconcile his conscience with his actions. He justified his choices as necessary evils. He told himself it was all part of the life he chose. He tried to compartmentalize. He separated his personal life from his criminal activities, but the two worlds were destined to collide. John Gotti Sr.'s reign came to an end. He was convicted of racketeering and murder. He was sentenced to life in prison. This sent shockwaves through the Gambino family. It left a power vacuum. Gotti Jr. was thrust into a leadership role. He was ill-prepared for the responsibility. The authorities were relentless. They wanted to dismantle the Gambino family. They saw Gotti Jr. as a key target. He faced multiple indictments. He was charged with racketeering, extortion, and conspiracy. He fought the charges vehemently. The pressure took its toll. Gotti Jr.'s personal life suffered. His marriage was strained. His children were growing up with a target on their backs. He lived in a constant state of fear. He feared for his safety and the safety of his family. The legal battles dragged on. Gotti Jr.'s resolve began to waver. He saw the impact on his family. He questioned his choices. Was it all worth it? He had tasted power. But at what cost? John Gotti Jr., facing mounting legal pressure, found himself behind bars. The weight of his family name, a name synonymous with power and notoriety, became a double-edged sword. It offered a strange sense of protection within the prison walls, a respect born out of fear. Yet it also made him a target, a trophy for inmates and guards alike looking to make a name for themselves. Life in prison was a far cry from the luxury he was accustomed to. The harsh reality of confinement, the lack of freedom, and the constant threat of violence wore him down. He witnessed firsthand the brutal realities of prison life, the desperation and the violence that simmered beneath the surface. Despite the harsh conditions, Gotti Jr. found ways to cope. He drew strength from visits with his family, their unwavering love a beacon of hope in the darkness. He found solace in reading, losing himself in the pages of books, escaping the confines of his cell through literature. However, the mental and emotional toll of prison life was undeniable. The isolation, the fear, and the uncertainty gnawed at him. He began to question his life choices, the path he had taken, and the legacy he was destined to inherit. The solitude of prison provided fertile ground for introspection. John Gotti Jr. wrestled with his conscience, away from the pressures of his former life. The walls of his cell closed in, forcing him to confront the consequences of his actions. He grappled with the moral implications of his life in the Mafia. The faces of his victims now haunted his waking thoughts. The weight of his sins pressed down on him, heavy and inescapable. He thought about his family, his children growing up under the shadow of his infamy. He yearned for a different life for them, free from fear and violence. The longing for redemption took root, a seed of hope in his despair. He began to question the very foundations of the Mafia. Was it all built on a lie, a romanticized notion of brotherhood? The seeds of doubt grew rapidly, threatening to shatter the world he knew. John Gotti Jr., after years of navigating the treacherous waters of organized crime, made a monumental decision. He declared his intention to walk away from the Mafia, to sever ties with the life that had defined him for so long. This decision sent shockwaves through the underworld, a prince renouncing his crown. He sought to rebuild his life, to forge a new path for himself and his family, one free from the shadow of the Mafia. He pursued legitimate business ventures, seeking to distance himself from his criminal past and to create a brighter future. His attempts at legitimacy were met with mixed reactions. Some viewed it as a genuine change of heart, a man seeking atonement for his past sins. Others saw it as a strategic maneuver, a way to escape the relentless pressure from law enforcement and to protect his family. Despite the skepticism, Gotti Jr. pressed on, determined to prove his sincerity. He spoke out against the allure of the Mafia, warning young people about the dangers of organized crime. He sought to use his experience as a cautionary tale, a way to deter others from repeating his mistakes. John Gotti Jr.'s attempts to distance himself from his past were met with resistance. The authorities, skeptical of his claims of redemption, saw him as a threat, a cunning operator biding his time. They refused to let go of the possibility of bringing down a Gotti. New charges were brought against him, accusations of racketeering, extortion, and conspiracy. The government, armed with a mountain of evidence gathered over years of investigation, was determined to put him behind bars once and for all. Gotti Jr. once again found himself embroiled in a legal battle, fighting to clear his name and to prove his innocence. He proclaimed his innocence, claiming that he was a target of his family name, a victim of his past. The trial was a media spectacle, the courtroom packed with reporters, lawyers, and curious onlookers. The prosecution painted him as a ruthless mobster, a chip off the old block, while the defense portrayed him as a changed man, a father seeking to protect his family and to rebuild his life. The jury's decision would have far-reaching consequences for John Gotti Jr. and for the legacy of the Gotti name. The jury's verdict sent shockwaves through the courtroom. John Gotti Jr. was found not guilty on all charges. He had escaped the clutches of the law once again. The courtroom erupted in a mix of cheers and gasps, a testament to the polarizing figure he had become. Despite his legal victory, John Gotti Jr. could not escape the long shadow of his past. The years he spent embroiled in the Mafia, the accusations, the trials, and the constant scrutiny had taken their toll. He remained a figure of public fascination, his every move scrutinized, his motives questioned. The weight of his family name, once a source of pride and power, now felt like a curse. It was a constant reminder of the life he had tried to leave behind, a life that continued to haunt him. He had traded the gilded cage of the Mafia for a different kind of confinement, a life lived under the constant scrutiny of the public eye, forever linked to the sins of his father. The price of his freedom was a life forever altered, a life forever intertwined with the world he had tried so desperately to escape. The legal troubles of John Gotti Jr. marked a turning point for the Gotti dynasty. The aura of invincibility that once surrounded the family, the image of power and influence had been shattered. The relentless pursuit by law enforcement, the constant media scrutiny, and the internal strife had taken their toll. The Gambino crime family, once a formidable force in the underworld, found itself weakened and fractured. The leadership vacuum left in the wake of John Gotti Sr.'s imprisonment and the subsequent legal battles of his son had created opportunities for rivals and enemies. The family business, built on a foundation of loyalty, fear, and intimidation, was crumbling. The code of silence, once sacred, had been broken. Informants and cooperating witnesses emerged from the shadows. drawn by the promise of leniency or driven by fear. The Gotti name, once synonymous with power and dominance, now evoked a sense of cautionary tale. The fall from grace was a stark reminder of the ephemeral nature of power, the fickle hand of fate, and the high cost of a life lived outside the law. John Gotti Jr.'s story is a complex one. He was born into a world of privilege and violence. He was both a product of his environment and a victim of it. He struggled to reconcile his loyalty to his family with his own moral compass. His attempts to escape the Mafia were met with skepticism and resistance. The sins of the father were visited upon the son. John Gotti Jr.'s life is a reminder that the past is never truly gone. It lingers, casting a long shadow over the present. His story is a cautionary tale. It highlights the seductive nature of power. It shows the devastating consequences of a life entangled with organized crime. It is a reminder that even those born into privilege are not immune to the allure of the underworld. But it is also a story of redemption. It shows that it is possible to break free from the cycle of violence. It is a reminder that everyone has the capacity for change. John Gotti Jr.'s legacy is complex and multifaceted. His story continues to fascinate and intrigue us. It is a story that will be told and retold for generations to come.